When Fred Rogers died in 2003, his wife opened a locked drawer nobody else had access to. Inside were over 30 letters he'd written to God every single year on his birthday. In each one, he questioned whether anything he did actually mattered. The man who made millions of children feel safe spent decades wondering if he was enough. But those letters weren't the only thing he kept hidden. Most people remember the sweaters, the gentle voice, the neighborhood. What they don't know is that Fred Rogers carried scars most never saw. He was born into serious wealth in 1928. His father built a mansion with heated floors and a private elevator. 47 acres surrounded their estate. But Fred spent most of his early years completely alone. His father worked endless hours at the steel plant and barely came home. Even with 3 servants in the house, Fred just wanted someone to talk to. That loneliness carved something deep into him, a craving for emotional connection that would define everything he created later. When he was only 2 years old, Fred caught both measles and scarlet fever during the Great Depression. 15% of children in Pennsylvania who got both didn't survive. He was trapped in bed for 47 days straight. His fever climbed above 104 degrees, and he started hallucinating. But his mother sat beside him every single day. She taught him how to play melodies on just the black piano keys because his fingers were too weak for the others. That piano became his first real friend, and music became the language he used to process pain for the rest of his life. At 3 years old, Fred couldn't tie his shoes or even hold a fork properly. Doctors diagnosed him with severe developmental dyspraxia and told his parents he might never improve. One doctor actually suggested sending him to an institution. Instead, they hired a therapist who brought puppets to their sessions. Within 6 months, his coordination improved by 300%. He needed Velcro shoes until he was 12, but he never forgot how something as simple as puppetry helped him heal. That same year, a train derailed just 400 yards from their home. Fred stood at his window and watched. 47 people died in the wreck. His father told him they were sleeping, but Fred learned the truth when he read the newspaper. The horror never left him. He asked his mother why people got hurt when they were just trying to go somewhere. That question became one of the core themes he'd spend his entire career trying to answer for children. High school nearly broke him. Fred was tall but skinny, with a high-pitched voice. Kids called him Squeaky and made his life miserable. 3 football players shoved him into a locker during lunch. Nobody punished them. He tried playing piano at assemblies, hoping music would connect him to his classmates. Instead, they mocked him and threw paper planes at him. Once, they poured chocolate milk all over his sheet music. His mother almost pulled him out of school entirely, but Fred stayed and quietly built a resilience that would carry him through decades of criticism later. What most people never knew was that Fred had another reason for choosing television over face-to-face ministry. As a teenager in the 1940s, he developed severe acne that left deep scars across his face. He hated how he looked. He spent hours in front of mirrors learning to apply concealer, using money from his paper route to buy high-end cosmetics. When he was ordained in 1963, he made a choice. He would serve children through television instead of in-person ministry, because he thought his scarred face would distract from the message. For the rest of his career, he wore makeup on camera to hide the past written on his skin. In 1986, he wrote a manuscript called The World of Mr. Rogers. In it, he shared the truth about his scars and how much he struggled with his appearance. He even wrote about wiping off his makeup on camera during sad episodes so kids could see someone imperfect but still kind. Publishers refused to print it. They said it was too raw, too personal. So Fred locked that manuscript away in the same drawer where he'd later store his letters to God. Fred Rogers walked out of NBC after just 6 weeks in 1951. He landed his dream job working behind the scenes on major shows, but what he saw disgusted him. Adults throwing pies in each other's faces while children laughed. It felt like a betrayal of what television could be. 3 years later in Pittsburgh, he co-created the Children's Corner on a budget of $150 a week. They had one yellow legal pad to plan an entire year of content. Fred had to sprint from the puppet stage to the organ and back during live broadcasts, which is why he started wearing sneakers. Daniel Tiger was born the night before the station launched. made from a sock the station manager handed him. He voiced all 13 puppet characters live, making up dialogue on the spot. In 1955, he decided he wanted a tiny red trolley to move across the screen. There was no budget for it, so he built it himself from scraps. The whole thing cost $18. He used tweezers and a magnifying glass to glue every piece together. One day after filming, he collapsed from exhaustion right on the studio floor. The pressure nearly destroyed his marriage. In 1956, during an argument, Fred smashed one of his puppets. It was completely unlike him. Something broke that day. Years later, he used that exact moment, his rage and guilt, to teach children about managing anger. He never wasted his own pain. He turned it into lessons.
When he returned from Canada in 1968 and rebranded the show as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the reviews were brutal. Variety called it boring therapy. The Washington Post said he was too slow and too calm. He got letters calling him creepy. But Fred refused to change a single thing. He believed children needed time to feel and think, even if adults didn't understand it. He built the trolley factory set himself using real tools from his father's steel mill. He also built a hidden room inside King Friday's castle where he stored over 1,000 gifts from viewers. He cataloged every single one and wrote thank you letters to every child who sent something. Behind the gentle voice and cardigan lived an athlete nobody knew about. Diagnosed with mild hypertension in 1971, Fred started swimming 3 miles every morning at 5:30. He could bench 200 pounds, he did 100 push-ups a day, and had the heart rate of a marathon runner. But he kept it completely secret because he didn't want parents thinking he was faking his gentle image. He began weighing himself every day until he reached exactly 143 pounds. 1 for I, 4 for love, 3 for you. He maintained that exact weight for 30 years. In May 1969, he did something that changed television forever. 1 year after Dr. King's assassination, Fred invited Officer Clemens, the show's first black cast member, to cool his feet with him in a small pool. Southern stations refused to air the episode. He received over 500 angry letters, some filled with slurs. But Fred responded to every single one of them calmly and personally. During the Vietnam War, he produced a 5-part series called Conflict, where kids learned about war through imagination. Parents were furious. Some call him un-American. CBS refused to air nationally, so Fred mailed out copies station by station himself. In 1981, he introduced a special called What Do You Do with the Mad That You Feel? During seminary training in the 50s, Rogers had admitted to struggling with buried rage from being bullied as a child. In the show, children smashed cardboard boxes, screamed into pillows, pounded clay. Rogers stood beside them calmly, telling them it was okay. Parents wrote in worried that he was encouraging kids to act out. Fred didn't care. He said bottling emotions was more dangerous than releasing them. Then in 1998, everything changed. Fred was diagnosed with stomach cancer at 70 years old. Over the next 2 years, he filmed 65 more episodes while going through chemotherapy. He got so sick during tapings that he'd throw up between takes, but he never missed a shoot. He lost 40 pounds, but wore padding under his clothes so kids wouldn't notice anything wrong. He worked his illness into the scripts. Daniel Tiger started having stomach aches and asking hard questions. His final taping in December 2000 was brutal. He could barely stand, but he recorded a 15-minute goodbye scene anyway. 2 years later, he passed away. But before he did, he made sure to help children understand the things he himself had once feared. And there was one more secret nobody knew about. Every single morning for over 20 years, Fred Rogers spent 2 hours praying. He kept lists of 500 names, real children who had written to him, and he prayed for each one by name. His team was stunned when they found out. They had no idea how deeply personal his connection to viewers truly was. Those birthday letters to God revealed a man who constantly wondered if he was doing enough. He kept journals filled with viewer mail that made him cry. Letters from kids whose parents were divorcing, kids who lost siblings, kids who were scared. He spent entire evenings writing back to them. He asked Joanne to keep those writings private while he was alive because he didn't want people to know he had doubts. By 2000, his show had reached over 50 million children in 45 countries. But in 1995, he turned down a $1 million licensing deal to make Mr. Rogers toys. No cereals, no lunch boxes, no theme park rides. He said the space between the screen and the child was sacred, and he refused to let money touch it. Fred Rogers changed how we think about children's mental health. He had lived through sickness, bullying, and trauma. Studies show that children who watched his show were more emotionally resilient. Schools started using his methods in therapy. His childhood hurt didn't fade. It helped thousands heal. When he died on February 27, 2003, over 50 million people bought a commemorative stamp featuring his red cardigan. Rogers had weighed that sweater every day. It always came out to exactly 2.7 pounds. He believed it carried the emotional weight of every connection he had made with children through the screen. In 2018, a documentary called Won't You Be My Neighbor broke records, earning nearly $23 million. People packed theaters for one man's quiet truth. His son James continued the mission. In 2012, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood premiered, and it's still running today, helping children with autism and families during lockdowns. The Fred Rogers Archive holds over 22,000 items. Visitors come to see X the Owl, King Friday's castle, and that red sweater. Fred Rogers once said, "The space between the screen and the child is sacred." Somehow, even now, decades after his death, that space still feels alive. The letters in that locked drawer revealed a man who doubted himself constantly, but showed up anyway. Maybe that's the real lesson. You don't have to be certain. You just have to care enough to try.